call your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West. Here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, I give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. Maybe even some music. So let's waste no time. Oh yeah. Woo. Let's get to it. Story number 1. 3 local youth headed to the soapbox finals. JT Whitehouse has a headline out of the Vindicator published July 16th reporting on how 3 local youth will compete for a world title in 3 categories of the soapbox derby racing. That's racing. They'll be racing at Derby Downs in Akron. 14-year-old Parker Lamb of Canfield, 15-year-old Morgan Brammer of Poland, and 11-year-old Emmeline Esmail of Howland will all compete in the stock division. Your local youth continue to be in a lot of headlines. Big headlines. Story number 2. Housing aid approved. David Scolding has a report published July 18th explaining how $5.3 million in American Rescue Plan funds have been approved in Youngstown to help people buy and maintain their homes. The plan has not come without criticism, though. Those who qualify must. The report goes on to say that those who qualify must be a resident of Youngstown who has lived within the city for 5 years with a total annual household income that falls between $27,450 and $104,220. So I guess that's the requirements you have to meet to get approved. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. Smash and grabs in the headlines. There is a $10,000 reward for the identification and arrest of the individuals responsible for the July 10th burglary of tactical firearms at 2959 Canfield Road. According to a Vindicator report published July 17th, security footage shows 4 individuals breaking into the store and stealing several firearms. Big headline. Story number 4. Liberty looking to improve Center Park and some roadways with $450,000 in American Rescue Plan funds received from Trumbull County Commissioners. According to Road Supervisor Wayne Hickman, 10 roads will be selected for paving and improvements and will be completed in 2025. The roads includes Haviland Drive and Haviland Circle, Ruth Circle, St. Andrews Drive, Michigan Avenue, Goleta Avenue, and Pinehurst Circle. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Story number 5. Hitting the reset button in downtown Youngstown. Youngstown looks to be hitting the reset button with the demolition of the Realty Tower building that has already started, according to a headline. The tower's ground floor made national news after a gas explosion caused a few people to be injured and one Chase Bank worker to lose his life. The work is expected to take 4 to 6 weeks and has resulted in the cancellation of some major downtown events. Some of them have been rescheduled. Now, this appears to be the first step in what appears to be the downtown reset. That's why story number 5 made it this week. Story number 6. Gun violence is a topic of discussion in Ohio. The Vindicator has an article published July 17th explaining how a coalition of Ohio mayors has reached out to the governor, Mike DeWine, suggesting ways to partner up to help cities reduce gun crimes. This is after Youngstown has recorded its 14th homicide this year. A rash of violent gun stories is creating movements for nonviolence to emerge. They're trying to somehow purge to nonviolent movement to be purged out with nonviolence. Get it? Big headline. Story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines and developing news story that made it this week. I'm peeking over mountains, combing through papers, looking under my bed for a top story, just to keep you informed. Story number 7. What does J.D. Vance's VP pick mean for Ohio Vice President? From Donald. Now, the appointment of J.D. Vance to run aside Donald Trump as his vice president has come with some mixed opinions. Some feel that he may be too inexperienced, and while some feel that this is an okay pick and will be helpful for Ohio. Now, J.D. Vance is only 39 years old and is a resident of Cincinnati, if you did not know. This story made it in because of the recent big news continued to be surrounded by the Trump push to become president again. That's why story number 7 also made it to the top this week, because this could keep Ohio in consistent headlines. Big headlines. Story number 8, and the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week for the region, for the people, for the locals, for the world, for people to stay informed. Don't you feel it? Yeah! Yeah! Story number 8. Vienna is on the ropes. Fighting. A story out of Vienna published July 13th by Dan Pomley of The Vindicator. Now, it talks about the small community's finances and how the community is in need of financial help. One auditor of state, Ohio auditor of state, I have to get this right, Keith Faber's office they announced Friday that the township has been placed in a state of physical emergency. This is after over $1 million somehow disappeared mysteriously, resulting in a deficit for the township. Folks, this story is still developing and adds to a lot of flavor around money. This is even with Youngstown's education system, emergency crews. Everybody is talking money. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. You're the Mediator. Me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
What does Method8Inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8Inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
welcome back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, we are talking fighting. The fighting spirit seems to be in the air. People are fighting. There was a fight at a school that I used to go to in high school where they were talking about people were getting beat with bats and fighting. You know, I don't know what's happening. But as Bruce Lee would say, we have to be like Walter. We have to control our urges and fight the inner dragon. Makes you wonder, did you know that in Peru, to settle their frustrations, they have a day where everybody fights? Like if you got a problem with your neighbor, if you got a problem with your brother, you go out to the field. They organize this one event where everybody just goes in and fight, just to settle their differences. But in America, it's a little different. People are killing, fighting, people beating people to literally swollen brains. Emergency crews are busy. What is causing the world to be in the fighting spirit? Is it the fight to unite? Is it the fight to dismantle division? Republicans and Democrats are fighting. But in mediation, I sit back, analyze as they push the referee out of the way. I sit in the corner and I do what I do best. Stand in the middle and I mediate. Friends, let's join hands and be at peace. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Should we be concerned about melting ice? NBC News has a report explaining how melting ice is slowing Earth's rotation, shifting its axis, and even influencing its core. The report goes on to explain how 2 new studies suggest that human behavior has changed fundamental elements of the planet's physical properties. This is word for word, according to the report written by Evan Bush. The report is alarming and highlights several studies offering evidence that this new emerging event taking place is in nature could scientifically change how we're accustomed to living, leaving the question of, should we be waving the white flag? Should we be fighting? Or should we be taking the time to sit in the corner, beautify ourselves, and bask in the peacefulness of nature, the beauty of love, the beauty of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Folks, things are just heating up. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. The damage in Gaza could take years to clean up. Speaking of fighting, more fighting stories this week. Al Jazeera has a report explaining how the cleanup in Gaza could take 15 years. This is according to a UN agency. The entire piece shows Gaza at rock bottom, folks. It goes on further to explain exploded ordnances, harmful substances, and bodies, requiring the removal of 40 million tons of rubble that would require more than 100 trucks and cost more than $500 million. It gets worse, folks, because some of the debris is contaminated with asbestos, which is a toxic mineral that causes lung disease, including cancer. Fighting. If you did not know, about 50,000 bombs have been dropped on Gaza by Israeli warplanes since October 7th. 2,000 to 3,000 of these bombs did not explode. The report concludes by explaining that the overall reconstruction of Gaza today would cost between $40 billion to $50 billion, with the rebuilding of Gaza's homes taking until 2040 to complete. Story number 2 shows what fighting, the results of fighting, can be. Big help. Story number 3. China's economy is in the headlines. The Guardian explains how China's economy is growing slower than expected. The piece goes on to cite how the world's second largest economy has expanded by 4.7%, which is down from 5.3%. The report explains how commercial building sales are down 25%. Retail sales are also down 0.12%. The report has some staggering numbers showing a still slow recovery from COVID-19. Folks, this story is still developing. Story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4. Russia's economy is also in the headlines. Russia's economy is another economy that is seeing some signs of decline after Business Insider explains how Russia could see a severe recession within a year, according to Berkeley. Now, the piece goes on to explain how energy revenues are waning while losing access to the U.S. dollar which could hit Russia's finances and further isolate Moscow from the global economy. Now, the nation is set to rack up a deficit of 1.59 trillion rubles, now, or around 18 billion this year. Now, this story is still developing. Made it in because they asked Putin who you would rather see as president, and he probably pointed the finger at Biden rather than Trump, because he probably wants some slack, or because he doesn't want to be sanctioned. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Well, folks, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I'll be right back with the top 4. So don't you go anywhere. You're in the Mediator with me, Brian West. Tune in to Methodate's YouTube channel to check out the top interviews that made it throughout the years and months. Visit Method88.com. Check out all the community interviews if you want to check it out. Method88.com. Buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Oh, yeah. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, we're talking about fighting this week, and it seems to be in the air. We just watched the former president almost get assassinated. You know, you probably think to yourself, what would cause a 20-year-old kid just to snap like that? Just get up on a building and say, F it, take matters into my own hands and try to take out the Trumpster. You know, Trump has been in a lot of headlines lately. the radio, news, global figure. According, I'm assuming he must be a very, very wealthy man, decided to run for president. And for some odd reason, his milkshake seems to bring everybody to the yard. But in PA, a young kid just decided, you know what? I'm going to get up this morning and I'm going to try to take out the former president. It's amazing what people could put their minds to if they decide to. Now, this little kid, a young adult, went up against the Secret Service and almost succeeded, sparking the question of the fight that we all hold inside. And the fact that mediation could be bringing all the peacemakers to the yard. My mediation brings all the peacemakers to the yard. Yeah. And their like is better than yours. I could teach you folks how to be peaceful, but I'd have to charge. 'Cause once you get low, everyone will look both ways. I'm in a perfect love, and then your eyes will see, and then your eyes will see, and beep it up, you'll see. La 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 la. Let's wait no time, folks. The fighting spirit is in the air, and the milkshake is bringing everybody to the yard. Let's get to it. Story number 5. Speaking of milkshake and the fighting spirit, like I said, what caused a 20-year-old young fella to snap and take action into his own hands? After a 20-year-old decided to put the fate of a presidential candidate into his own hands, the question now is, what caused this? Was it mental? Was it the fact that young folks don't really have a lot to do? Or they're just angry, could be frustrated. Perception plays a major part on how this almost seems, perception plays a big part of the story, and how it almost seems as though one young adult was literally handed a free shot and failed to hit his main target. So they say he had a chance, but and a lot of people are saying there's something strange about this. Did they give him a chance? I mean, did somebody set this up? Folks, the entire report is mind-blowing and randomly popped up in top headlines, sparking some hyper conversations about the security of high-level public officials. Folks, this report has put the spotlight on America's top security force, that's the Secret Service, and asks the question on how a 20-year-old found a crack that will resonate throughout all of American history and almost took out Donald Trump. Big B. Story number 6, the immigration card and the art of the deal could collide. In all of the newfound hype surrounding each candidate, there are still some serious problems ahead, and immigration is just one of many of these problems. The question is, how do you crack down on over 1 million illegals who are soaking up jobs and resources? The outcome could be that whoever the next president may be, there will either be some deals being made to enhance the workforce with cheap labor, or there will be some brutal deportations taking place. The fact is, you have over 1 million people undocumented in the country. Folks, how can you resolve this problem? Sounds like some people will be making some deals, folks. This story is still developing. That's story number 6. Also made it to the top 2 this week. Big. Story number 7 and the top 2. International headline and developing news story that made it this week. Sailing on my way to glory, I'm sailing to these 2 top stories. Story number 7. The American dysfunction is a problem. Yes, America right now looks dysfunctional. It is nothing new. The Guardian has an opinion piece on how the American Republic appears to be crumbling before our eyes. The report points the blame at both parties, Democrat and Republican. The opinion piece has an eye-popping projection explaining how in 2021, a leading Canadian political scientist and scholar of violent conflict warned that the weakening of U.S. democratic institutions over decades could lead to the whole system's collapse by 2025. The report goes on to say that instability and a right-wing tyranny will be the result by 2030. The entire opinion piece points out some historical facts, but mainly points out some alarming trends taking place at the moment that are similar to the rise of past authoritarian regimes. Folks, this story is still developing, thus making story number 7 in the top 2. Big headline. Story number 8 in the top international headline and developing news story that made it this week. Put them up. Put them up. Come on, sucker. Yeah, 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 yeah. 1, 2. Fighting for the right to mediate. Story number 8. You gotta fight for your right to mediate. Whew. Story number 8. Whew. Story number 8. The inflation bug and the economy. We're fighting the economics. Now, as of July 15th, the Morning Star projects that the U.S. inflation rate will average 2.4% in 2024. Well, I guess it's going down. It's going down. That's down from 6.5% in 2022 and 3.7% in 2023. The Federal Planning Bureau also forecasts average consumer price inflation sitting at 3.2% in 2024, which is also down from 4.06% in 2023. So far, it looks like the economy is recovering, and while political rivals battle it out, this could be the main talking point for the party with the majority rule in a critical upcoming election. Either way, there are still a lot of people struggling to make ends meet in this economy. Now, they're going to say that the data does not show their struggle, and this could only be signs of they're only saying that the economy is easy because of the election. Maybe what some people will say, but the data is showing that inflation is going down, folks, and the economy is improving. But who knows? Maybe it could be because of the election. Who knows? Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the mediator, the man in the middle, navigating your stories just to keep people informed. If you want to show some support here at Method 8, it doesn't take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, order a sponsor program. Well, folks, I am out of here. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator this week with me, Brian West. Or you can stop by the store at 5648 Morgan Street. See my smiling face. I am out of here. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.